All right. Good morning, everybody. How's it going? Hey, Griffin. Thanks for
Hi, how
joining
you
us
doing?
today. Good. How's your day going today?
It's a little bright and early right now, but very excited to be a part of this stream. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for being a part of it. So, starting to see some greetings come in from around the world. We got a handful of folks on LinkedIn. If you're watching on Twitch or YouTube, definitely drop in some hellos. Let us know where you're from. So, this morning we are joined by Griffin over at Dolby, and we're going to explore some media APIs. So, pretty excited to get into this. We're going to maybe dabble in some music, maybe some video. We got a handful of APIs that we want to explore here. So, Griffin's going to take us through some of that in just a moment. But as always, we like to start with our "In Case You Missed It" segment. So let me go get that, and let's walk through a couple things in case you missed it. So for starters, I'm Ian Douglas. I'm a senior developer advocate here at Postman, and let's chat a little bit about what we got going on over at Postman these days. So the first one is that we've recently introduced bulk actions. So if you're used to using Postman and only selecting one thing at a time to do a bulk action, like a bulk delete or a bulk copy, it's been a little bit time consuming where you can only do one at a time. But now we have introduced bulk actions where you can actually highlight a number of things and do copies and moves and so on all at the same time. So we were super excited about that. We've also got some taskbar changes coming soon in Windows. It's currently in the Macintosh version of Postman. Will be coming soon in the desktop version for Windows as well. We've also got a really great blog post if you want to check it out. This is a guide to the most popular APIs, and this is basically covering a pros and cons comparison of some of the top sort of protocols, I guess you'd say, and types of APIs. So it does a really good job comparing REST, SOAP, GraphQL, gRPC, and WebSockets, and so on, and basically giving a really nice detailed breakdown of the pros and cons and finding the right fit, like which API should you use for a particular kind of project. So you can check all of those out at blog.postman.com. And we're also going to have a new Space Camp coming up pretty soon. We don't have it on the website yet, but we're going to be doing a Space Camp in the month of August around contract validation. And I'm going to be running that, and we're going to be getting someone on our quality engineering team to join on that stream. And so we're pretty excited about that. I love nerding out on testing and dealing in with some of that. So cool. Let's chat about Mr. Griffin over here. So Griffin, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what you do at Dolby, and give us a really high level kind of like 30-second intro as to like what kinds of APIs is Dolby into these days.
Absolutely. So, hi everyone. My name is Griffin Solot-Kehl. I am a developer advocate here at Dolby.io, which is a subdivision of Dolby where we're focusing on developer-first APIs, which I know are definitely a big topic over here at Postman. We are focusing on trying to bring the Dolby audio and visual expertise over to the hands of any developer out there who wants to use them, where we have three main pillars of media, which is all about post-processing audio and video content, where you can enhance, analyze, transcode, master music, and all of that at the palm of your fingertip just via an API call. We additionally have our communications API, which is all about conferencing, video, and audio sharing across multiple people using Dolby's APIs to make sure that your audio content sounds as good as possible with things like spatial audio and using WebRTC based kind of encoding, as well as our streaming API, where we have recently acquired Millicast for super low latency, sub 500 millisecond streaming. So you are able to share your content with people around the world at an extremely low latency, being able to share it all over the place.
That's really interesting because even knowing like geographically, like we can only send packets of data at the speed of light around the world. that's got implications on, like, how fast you can literally get that packet around the world to actually stream that data to other people. I wanna say it's something like, uh, I'm not gonna do mental math. It's too early in the morning for me to do math too. But even with the speed of light, doesn't it take, like, half a second just to get that packet to the other side of the world if you're, like, streaming with someone on the other side of the planet? Like, it's still gonna take 'em a moment to actually get that data over there, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there still definitely are technical, physical hardware limitations about how fast something can get somewhere. Though what we can do is we can optimize via CDNs and via better network traffic direction, which we actually have some very talented researchers and scientists who actually were some of the people
Awesome.
who wrote some of the protocols, WIP,
Wow.
WHIP being one of the big ones, that have really been able to help us kind of be a difference maker in terms of being able to share this content around the world in very optimal speeds.
That's pretty great. So a lot of the APIs that Dolby's been building are basically, as you said, post processing, and but you've also got some like in sort of like what we might call what like inline processing or real time processing, where it's actually processing the audio as it's coming through for things like communication APIs. Otherwise, you're basically just saying like, here's a video, do some work, or here's some audio, do some work. Um, what would you say are, like, the main key differences there between, like, the post-processing APIs as far as, like, getting the work up there and the response time of when is it finished processing and so on? Like, what kinds of APIs do you use at Dolby for that?
Yeah, so for post processing, things definitely scale kind of logarithmically, or the shorter it is, of course, it's closer going to take to the amount of time that it's going to take. But we scale up as a file actually is longer. So it isn't a linear processing, and it definitely is an exponential processing where it actually just gets more efficient the longer the file is, which definitely is a benefit there. Though I guess
Mhm.
in terms of kind of the difference between our post processing and our kind of live processing of all the content that we have going on is just kind of depending on what your needs and what your desires are. Where the post processing definitely is kind of more in content that's going to live somewhere, be accessible in multiple different areas. Where some of the live processing is going to be stuff that you just want this to happen in real time. It is a live conference that is happening right now. Oftentimes, we are, for example, HIPAA compliant. So the telehealth and the medical industry definitely is like a big area of interest for us, trying to make
Oh, that's
sure
cool.
that, yeah, no, we're not saving this content for somebody out there, that we are able to make the experience of people a lot better in terms of reducing background noise, making sure people's voices can be heard better, just kind of taking advantage of all this database of information that Dolby as a company has in terms of we are integrated within basically every mainstream microphone in the world. We are integrated in every headphone or speaker in the world, and we know what those are going to
Mhm.
be like. So we're able to optimize our algorithms to optimize best for all this just inherently.
That's awesome. Looks like Raj had some, questions come by on YouTube. Is the Dolby API, the same Dolby, uh Tomos audio, used in the movies, or is it different? And then also asking if the APIs are open source.
So the APIs are not open source, and this is separate from Dolby Atmos, where Dolby Atmos is a licensed proprietary thing that you have to have a contract with us to be able to use directly. The
Mhm.
Dolby APIs are just typical APIs, where you pay for them the same way that you pay for the majority of REST-based APIs out there. We do have a spatial mixing kind of product that we offer in our communications APIs, though it is something that you need to develop programmatically instead of Atmos, which works a little bit more kind of in a higher level algorithm that you have based over there.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Well, let's dive in a little bit then on what kinds of APIs we're going to be tinkering with today. So we kind of hinted a little bit about maybe some music, maybe some video. What kinds of APIs do you want to work through today?
Yeah, so I'm always a really big fan of showing off our Enhance API, which is all about taking an existing audio or video file and throwing it through our algorithms, processing it, and trying to make the audio sound even better.
Okay.
This is just a very easy one to kind of show off to people and kind of say, oh, cool, that's a really interesting difference that we have going on over there.
Okay. So how do we get started? I'm currently logged into Dolby, so I'll share my screen here in a moment. So I'm currently logged in and I can get at my API keys. There's like an app key and an app secret, but we're gonna need to like start from scratch, assume we know nothing about this. How do we get started? So
Yeah,
we've got some I mean part of why you're here as part of Postman is because you're in our public API network. And so we'll definitely start there. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, and then we'll kind of address some of the questions coming through kind of as we go. Like Romaldo asked, can we use this API in web applications or other software?
absolutely. We integrate with just about every language out there. I mean, JavaScript, of course, is. I'm getting a little bit of echo on my end. I think it's from this going on. I'm going to mute this tab right
Okay.
now. Sorry about that.
No, no worries.
Uh, there we go. Cool. Yeah. So we integrate. We have just about every language because this is a REST-based API. So there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to use JavaScript, Python, Swift, whatever language that you're currently using directly in it, as long as it's able to make any HTTP requests out there, you will be able to use your media APIs just the way that you would expect to.
Okay. So the first thing I did in Postman was I basically searched for the word Dolby, and we've got a whole bunch of Dolby things that come up here. So we've got the communication APIs, we've got the media APIs, we've got a public workspace, and we've got your community link. Should we start with the media APIs? Is that where we want to start off with?
Yeah, today we're mostly going to be working with the media APIs.
Okay. All right. So we've got instructions here on how to get the API keys, and I've already got those, and I've got them set in an environment. Um,
Yeah, so what we want to do is we first want to make sure that we have an account made at Dolby.io.
okay.
At Dolby.io, you can just go over and you can sign up for a free account, totally free. You can either just do it typically with a username and a password, or you can sign up via GitHub or Google if that works the way that you want it to as well in terms of all of that. And that's going to enable you to create a new API key where you aren't assigned a one-to-one, you have it forever API key. You're able to generate as many different ones as you want in applications, which is very nice in terms of being able to kind of keep things separate if you want to rotate API keys and so that you're not exposing API keys to everybody out in the world. And
Mhm.
that's going to enable you to actually be able to authenticate with our API. So if you go over to the media APIs and go over to environments, you're going to see the media API underscore test environment that we've built for you over there, which is going to contain all the different values that you're going to want to be able to use.
Okay.
In this, the only thing that we need to do right now is we need to change the app dash key to paste in with the app key that we got from Dolby.io. And then we need to
Okay.
replace the app dash secret with the secret that we got. And that's going
Okay.
to enable us to be able to authenticate.
Cool. So because I clicked through to Dolby's public API, I can't make changes here. And so the first thing I need to do is actually fork this environment over into a workspace of my own. And so that's the first thing that you're going to want to do here. If you're following along, you're actually going to want to like click on the three dots next to the media API test in the environments tab of Postman. And this will work both on the desktop app as well as the web browser. You're going to click on the three dots over here and you're going to fork this environment. So I'm just going to go ahead and fork this over, and I'll just call this like Dolby live stream, and then need to pick a workspace. So I'm just going to put it in my automation workspace. I'm going to fork this over, and now we're in here. So whenever you're setting these kinds of values, we always recommend mark them as secrets, and you only want to populate the current values. If you populate anything in the initial value, it's actually going to synchronize that value to the Postman servers. And if you're doing your work in a public, accessible sort of workspace, other people can unmask what you've put in there. Anything that you put in your current value is only stored within that environment. So if you're on the desktop app, it's storing it within only your local desktop app. if you open your web browser later, it's not going to be in your web browser because it was only stored in your desktop application and vice versa. So even across platforms, across like even on the same machine, it's not going to have access to that current value between the desktop app and the browser. We keep that nice and secure for you that way. So always set these kinds of things to secret type in your environment and only set the current value. Don't set the initial value here. All right, so I'm going to go grab my app key and my app secret, and I'm going to paste those in there. So let me go over to my Dolby app here. I'm just going to pull this off screen for a moment, and I'm going to
Yeah,
set
and
my
as I
app
said, like if you
key.
did need to remove those, you are able to delete and create new API keys at will. So even if we were to expose those directly on stream, it would be fine. We'd be able to delete those at the end of it, and it should be perfectly fine.
Okay, so I've got those set in my environment, and you said those are the only things that we need to set here?
Yeah, those are the only things that we need to set here right now, because everything else we have made so it will auto-generate as we get through the proper steps.
Okay, awesome. All right, so got to make sure that we save those changes as well. Anytime you see a little dot in the tab in Postman, it means that you got some unsaved work. So I've got that saved in my environment. And someone else was asking in chat, is this API open source? So the API itself is open to the public to use. You can sign in with a Google account or GitHub to Dolby and get API keys. And there is some amount, I guess, of free usage before you get billed. Is that right?
Yes.
Um, cool. All right. So from here, so where do we get started from here? So we're
Yeah,
also going to have to
so
fork over. We're going to have to fork over the collection as well. We've only forked the environment.
so we are going to want to fork over the collections because that's how we're going to be able to get started by using the environment directly with them.
Okay. So I'm back on the Dolby workspace, and let's see which API collection are we going to fork over?
So the first one we need to use is the authentication, which is this is going to allow us to use all of the different APIs because what we're doing is we're generating a token so that we aren't directly exposing any of our API credentials in our other authentication endpoints. So this
Okay.
is going to expire after a certain amount of time. And if somebody sees it, well, it's going to expire automatically. So you don't even have to worry about that type of security.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'm just going to hide chat for a minute just so folks can see my screen a little bit better here as we work. Um, Okay, so I'm back on the Dolby workspace, and from here, we're going to fork over the authentication, and we're going to create a fork of this. And so this is going to be Dolby, and again, I'm going to put this in my automation workspace. I'm going to fork that one over, and then it's going to take me over to my workspace. And then which other one should I fork over while we're here?
Yeah, so Enhance is the one that I think we might want to be working with today, or music mastering, depending on which files we want to try to be processing. If we want to kind
Okay.
of show off what they sound like, the
Okay.
others are definitely cool too. But your choice.
Okay. I'll grab the enhance one to get started. And I'll put that in here, and then I'm going to come back. I'm going to grab the music mastering one as well. It's taking a moment to think about that one. Oh, something went wrong. Let's try that again. Gotta love live technical demos, huh?
Of course.
All right, well, let's try the music mastering one. Send that over to my automation workspace. Okay, that one
There we
worked.
go.
So let me go back and grab the enhance and make a fork for that one. See if that works for us this time. There we go.
There we
Okay,
go.
so now I have the Dolby authentication, enhance, and the music mastering. What I'm going to do over here actually is I'm going to make a well, I guess I can't really put the collections in another collection, or can I?
I believe you should be able to do
Well,
some
we'd have to like
subfoldering. Yeah.
yeah, we'd have to get into some subfolders, so I'm not gonna worry about that. Okay, so we have our authentication. So the first thing we need to do is generate that API token. So the first thing it's looking for is a Dolby IO URL. So I need to make sure that I pick my Dolby environment up here. So this is the environment that I forked over. Um, is it? No, sorry, it's the media API environment that we forked over. So now we can see that the URL resolves. And if we go look at the headers, all of this stuff should already be set up, right?
Yeah.
For the
So
authorization
authentication
stuff.
we've inherited from the main, which is just using a basic authentication where if you just click send right now, it should generate a token.
Okay, great. Someone asked in chat real quick, can you explain about forking? So forking basically makes a copy of what Dolby has put in their public API. And so it's very much like a Git fork if you've used Git or any sort of source code revision control where you can basically sort of branch off some work. And what a fork is doing is it's basically making a copy, but it's also keeping a reference back to the original. This would allow me, for example, to kind of tinker and play with the Dolby API and maybe make a pull request back to them saying like, hey, update this, update that. And then Griffin would have the option of actually merging in my work. And so it's making a copy, but it's also making a reference back. The other nice thing about making that reference is if Griffin were to go in and make updates or add something new to this API, I'll get a little notification up here with this bell icon saying, something has changed in the Dolby API, and I can also recopy down like any of those changes through that fork. So it's basically looking at what I copied over last time and what has changed since, and then only pull down those delta changes so that everything that I've got on my side is now up to date. So you're not making a whole new copy every time. It's just going to pull down any additional changes since last time.
Yeah, and I also just noticed they made a typo in authentication, missing a C, so I fixed
Mhm.
that on the master branch. But if we just
Abbreviation. It's all good.
yes, if we click send right now, it should be able to generate a token for us.
All
There we
right,
go.
so we got a nice giant access token and it expires in 10 minutes, it looks like. Okay, so what do I do with this big giant access token?
You don't need to do anything with it. So the way that our tests work, we have made it so this automatically is going to populate the bearer token environment variable within our environment so that we can use this token throughout the rest of our different APIs we have going on
Very
here.
handy, very handy. So this will be important to know if you've already got another environment variable called bearer token, this could overwrite what's already there. But okay, cool. So now if I go back and I view my Dolby environment, we can see that bear token actually, yeah, we got populated in here. So that's great. That was kind of handy having that in a test. Okay. So now from here we've got the enhance and we've got the music mastering. Do you want to tinker with some music?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So how do we get started with the music one here? So
Yes.
we've got start mastering, get mastering results. We got some preview stuff. Which one should we take a look at?
So we actually, I did forget, because we are using local files, we're going to need to fork one more
Okay.
kind of collection that we have going on here, which is going to be the
Okay.
input and output.
Is that from the same oh, yeah, from the
Yep.
same workspace? So going back to the Dolby workspace, we have the input and output, and, this is gonna allow us to upload files. Okay. So I'm gonna fork this one as well. So clicking on the 3 dots, create a fork, and we'll add this one over here as well. Alright, so
Beautiful.
input and output. So this is gonna use the same environment, like, you've got all this stuff already set up to use all the same environment stuff here, right?
Yep.
Alright.
So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're actually going to go one more up to start media input.
Okay.
Yes, and what this one is going to do is this is going to create a temporary URL for us to upload our file into. So
Okay.
in the body section we have over here, you'll notice that we have input file link, which is
Mhm.
one of the environment variables that we have. You can name this whatever you want as long as it starts with the characters DLB colon forward slash forward slash. So I'm not sure we want to change that directly within our environment variables right now.
So inside of here, so we can go in and we can click on that edit button. So DLB colon slash slash. Okay.
And then you name it whatever you want it to be. So it can be file.mp4, it can be file slash.
Now is this
Yeah.
my local file name or is this what Dolby is going to call the file when it's finished?
This is what Dolby is going to kind of have saved as your URL. So this is not going to be your local name
Oh,
at
okay.
all. This is just going to be an identifier so that you know where we're going to be saving this to within our temporary servers.
Okay. So I've got a WAV file ready to go. So we're gonna convert this to MP3, I guess, as part of this process.
Let's just keep it as a wave. So the music
WAV.
mastering is not a transcoding tool. That is what our transcoding API is for. Though
Okay.
technically Mac and Windows don't really care for what the ending is. But yes, we're going to keep it like that.
Yep. So I put the word D Black in front of it. So this is my buddy Darren Black. He lives in Las Vegas and he does a lot of hip hop beats. He's a multi-platinum ASCAP sort of music producer as well. So I'm going to we're gonna hear a sample of his work as part of this. So let's make sure that that's saved okay because when I pulled that other window over, yep, okay, so that's saved in the environment. Um, okay, so where do we go from there? So
So
we
now
send
we
this
should
over
just
and
be
get
able to
that.
send. Yep.
Okay. All right. So it gave us a URL. I noticed there's some test code. So is that writing our URL somewhere for us?
I believe it should be. Let's double check that.
Looks like it
Yes.
made a collection variable called upload file URL. Okay.
So that should be set. And now what we need to do is we need to go into the put section over here. And this is where we're actually going to be able to upload our file using a put
Okay.
request over here.
Yep. So if I hover over that, we can see it's actually going to go, it looks like, into an S3 bucket on Amazon.
Yep,
Okay.
and this is going to be temporarily stored at Dolby. I keep on saying temporarily because that's very key. You're not going to be able to use this as your own storage server. We'll keep it there for a few hours, but then we'll delete it. So make sure you download everything at the end. But on the
Sounds good.
body, what we can do is we can directly upload the file via the select file button we have over there and send it over, which is going to put the file directly into that URL.
All right. So I got our music sample here from my friend Darren, and we send that over.
Yep.
Invalid argument.
Hmm.
One auth mechanism must be set. It looks like the authorization header wasn't set. Did our bear token run out of time? Did it take us more than 10 minutes to get this far?
That is very possible.
Okay.
So
All right.
let's make sure we run authentication one more time.
Okay. And what's nice about having this already written in your test code is we just have to send this and then we can immediately go send the other one again because you've updated that bearer token for us.
Absolutely.
So now we just upload that media again. We'll try this. Nope, it's not working for us again.
Hmm. Live debugging again right now
Good times. Good times.
to make sure we're doing everything properly. So the headers look to be fine, where I only see the authorization header that we have going on over here. Though it is saying that there are two different authentication headers going on at the same time that we have over here. Thankfully, I have a backup just in case we can't get this working live right now,
Okay.
just because I know we have a limited amount of time. But
Do you want me to switch over to your screen so folks can see your screen?
um, I let me try this very quick on my side to see if this works.
No problem.
Yes, the auth should be set to bear. I have been trying it out over here, but
Yeah.
we could double check
And
that as
so
well.
someone was asking as well, is the auth header set with bearer? Yeah. And so it should be using the bearer token. So it's inheriting from the collection level. So if we go up to the collection, we go to auth, then we see it's set to our bearer token here. And the value is the bearer token that's coming from our environment, which was set by running that previous request that we saw.
And doing a very quick little test over here. And now I'm running into my own errors that are completely separate. I was testing a lot of this in Postman desktop, so it looks like the agent is kind of being a little bit finicky with me right now.
Okay.
So I'm going to send you just a public link, which is another example of just how we are able to use not only local files, but also we
Yep.
are able to use publicly accessible URLs directly within. for any of this as well, where you don't have to directly upload. We're able to set things from S3 buckets, Google Cloud, Azure, as well as even just public files from things like Dropbox, Box, and OneDrive as well for all these
Okay.
different headers as well.
So should I change something about the body here
No,
instead?
so instead, this is going to be an environment. So we're going to change the input URL to that link that I just sent you.
Okay. So back in the environment, where we had set the input file link, we're going to change this now to actually be that URL.
Yep.
Now that is set. And if I send that over,
So that we are not sending over. So
oh, okay.
so sending over would be trying to put it directly into a URL, but now we already
Gotcha.
have the file directly in the URL. So we can actually start doing the processing right now. So if
Okay.
we go over to enhance, what we can do is we can go over to the start enhancing endpoint that we have over here,
Okay.
where this is going to allow us to get started enhancing. Where you're going to see the body includes or the input file link, includes our output file link, and also has this optional parameter content type that we have over here. This is optional, but is an ability for you to kind of do some more customization on what you want the enhancing to sound like. There are further parameters as well that you can find on our documentation website, docs.dolby.io, where you're going to be able to kind of see all the different ways you can edit it. But
Okay.
everything should be pre-filled right now in terms of where we all want it to go. So we can click send right now. Your progress parameters didn't validate. Oh, I think we need to generate a new token already,
Okay.
which you can
Uh,
also change when it expires. We have it defaulting to 600, but
okay.
you can change it up to 24 hours. So now let's try the start enhancing one more time.
Oh, I see. So in order to make that change, that's actually part of the body that we're sending over. So you can actually change that value here. I'm just going to make it really big just for the time being. Scroll down, we see it set to 6,000. Okay. Now we're starting enhancing. We'll send that over. Nope, still getting some validation errors here.
Hmm. So the errors are being blocked by my face right now. So, oh,
Okay.
okay, I see what it is. Content type should be equal to something. So that once again is something that we should change directly within there. You can
So
delete
should I?
that,
So
yeah,
you
and
mentioned it was
delete.
optional. Will it auto detect based on file extension, or does it try to introspect the binary of what you sent over to see like, oh, this looks like MP4 or
So content type, it actually is based on the audio itself, where it's
okay,
going to auto determine what it thinks is going to be best. So we can actually delete that content directly from the body if we want, and it
okay,
should still work.
okay. So I'll just take it out for the time being. Someone also mentioned in a comment, check your headers. Your token has been renewed twice. Make sure it's passed with the headers as the proper bearer prefix. So it will. So the nice thing about Postman is it's getting the authorization from the collection level. And the collection level, if we come up here and we look at the bearer token, it's using this environment variable. And so as soon as that environment variable changes, the next request that you send over is going to use this. So we're not writing it into here, we're using a variable. So we're not storing it as a static string of like ABC123 in here. It's actually coming in as a variable. So every request, it's going to go read the value of that variable immediately. So as we go through and we refresh that token, it's automatically going to update everything. Um, all right, cool. So let me save that. Let me go back to start enhancing. We'll send that over. All right. So now we have a job ID.
Beautiful.
So that
So
so
once
that worked
again,
for us.
yeah. So once again, this is going to auto-populate within our environment variables, which you can see via tests over there. A quick
Okay.
little note is if you did want to edit the content type, or that is that's actually going to be in a collection variable if you want to show off that point.
Okay.
Where if you go to the enhance section and you go over to the variables, you'll see content type is right there. And in our docs link that you can see on the right, you'll see all the different parameters that we have as valid for that variable.
Awesome. Okay. So we
Yeah,
have so it looks like we have a job ID.
Yeah, and now we can check the status of it. So if we go over to the get enhanced status that we have over there, we can run and we can see how this is all being done. So this is an asynchronous API, so it doesn't automatically flow. You do need to be able to check the status of it. But as you can
Okay.
see from this call, the file was short, so the progress is at 100 and the status is success. So this file is done, and now we can actually go ahead with downloading the file itself. So back in
Okay.
input and output, we should be able to go to start media download.
Okay.
And this,
And
once again, should auto-populate with everything that we need. So we should do ascend right now. And we have it not found. Uh, interesting. Again,
yep.
live coding, everyone.
Yep.
Um,
It looks like it set the output file link to example_out.
uh, yes.
So if we come back
So
up
that's just the
here.
default value that we
Yep.
have over there for all of that. And enhance should automatically be populating that over there.
Okay.
But I'm going to double check once again. Thank you, everyone, for being patient with us as we take a look at all of this all at the same time over here. Where, yeah, the output is the output file link we have in Start Enhancing. So that should be the same thing we have over there, but we can also try it again with a new output file link as well if we want to change that.
Okay. So I can change that in the environment.
Yeah,
Okay. So we're going to go into the environment and we're going to change current value, and we're just going to call this like enhanced tunnel. And do I
.mp4.
put it like MP4 or something on here?
Yeah, let's try that out.
Okay. So I hit enter to save, come back over here, and we'll send that over. And now we have a new job ID. So if we come back over to, well, let's look at the status here. We'll send that over. And it says that it's running 19% finished, 100% finished. So then start media download. We'll send that over. Still says not found.
Hmm. Okay, more live
So
debugging,
that,
which we're here for the
so
live
that,
debugging. Love that.
yep. So the output file link should still be coming in as DLB enhanced tunnel.mp4. So how would we debug something like this?
Yes. So if we can, well, first, I think it might be nice to show off our documentation page in the first place
Yep, no
for
problem.
everyone so we can see how it all works. Where if you go over to docs.dolby.io in a new tab,
You can go back over here. Let's see. All right, so docs.dolby.io.
you can see how we have our communications APIs and our media API docs over here, where we can go over to the API reference for the media API section over at the bottom.
Just the API guide or API reference?
Let's do API reference right now.
Okay.
And this is going to provide our documentation for all the different API endpoints that we have in our Postman collection we have over here.
Great.
So we can go over to the input and output section. If we scroll down on that sidebar and
Okay.
click on output. So here we can see how we're actually building this API just in general. You can see how we have all the different languages, but the query parameters are the only thing that we should be changing, where we have the URL that is the object that we have created to store our file directly within there.
Okay.
So I'm just double checking right now that the Postman collection has properly been updated to contain this, and I think that's input. So we should have parameters, which should have the output file link, and everything else should be empty. So this looks correct to me in terms of all of that, but it's very possible that something changed and Uh, and just double checking all of that right now.
So
Where
the
are we getting an
documentation
error
said,
code?
yeah, so we got a 404 error code. So looking at the documentation here, it says check that there are no typos in the URL path being used. And then it's telling us here like sort of what we should be looking at. So we have a type string, a title string, status number, an instance, and a detail. So if I go back over to Postman, we see we're definitely getting a 404 not found, and all we got was a message in here.
Very, very interesting. Because we have created that output file link. We're not manually typing it again, so it should be referencing the same one that we created
Okay.
in there. Um,
So one other thing that we can do in Postman is down here at the very bottom. Sorry, my nameplate is kind of covering it up, but we can use the console down the bottom left corner, right under where my mouse pointer is. Unfortunately, my nameplate on the live stream sort of hides it. But along the very bottom edge of Postman, we have a console that you can open up, and in here we can actually see like what does that full URL actually look like. In this case, we can see it's api.dolby.com//media/output. I'm wondering, is this double slash a problem?
I think that is the issue, indeed, right there.
Okay.
So let's try
So I'm just going
removing
to take
that.
it out. I'm just going to take it out on our request up here just momentarily, and we'll see if that makes a difference for us. Hey, we got a new file.
Ta-da!
Hurrah! So having that console down at the bottom of Postman, normally this is what your uh, you would see this kind of stuff down at the bottom. So it's just expanded the console down here. But having a console inside of Postman will allow you to kind of see like this is what we actually sent. These were the headers. This was the body, and so on. And that's one way of using Postman as a live debugger to sort of see what happened in here. Okay, so it looks like we got some information back. It looks like the way that you've actually built up the response here is we're actually seeing the resulting MP4 file in a media player right inside of Postman.
Yeah, which is a really cool tool that I love actually using Postman for this about is because calling an API like this is actually going to provide the file to download directly into the system that you're actually using as we're using these DLB files. You do
Yep.
have the option of directly uploading these to, for example, an S3 instance as part
Mhm.
of the API call, though I think it's a lot cooler to be able to see the file locally directly within there. So we should be able to play this file and hear the changed audio. So maybe we want to actually play the original file first and then play the enhanced one so we can show the audience what the difference sounds like.
Okay. Let me go back over here. I'm just going to increase the size over here. And Griffin, I'm going to mute our microphones temporarily because that's where that echo was coming from earlier. Is your audio was coming through my speaker through my desktop, which is playing as part of my desktop.
Perfect.
So let's go ahead and mute our microphones, and we'll play the original, and then we're going to come back and listen to the enhanced one.
This was one of those tunnels that had like sharks, like it was an aquarium. Wouldn't that be cool?
Like the one in Vegas.
Ooh, this is pretty nice though.
Mandalay Bay.
Yes, exactly like that.
All right, so let's take a look now at the enhanced version of that, and let's see if we can spot the difference.
Imagine if this was one of those tunnels that had like sharks, like it was an aquarium. Wouldn't that be cool?
Like the one in Vegas.
Ooh, this is pretty nice though.
Mandalay Bay.
Yes, exactly like that.
Did you all hear that? All of that background noise is completely gone. That's pretty wild. So it kept all the voices nice and like rich and very clear to hear, but all of the background noise is completely gone. Let me go back and replay that original one just so you can see what's really happening here.
Imagine if this was one of those tunnels that had like sharks, like it was an aquarium. Wouldn't that be cool?
Like the one in Vegas.
Ooh, this is pretty.
So hopefully y'all can hear that. So there was like wind and like background noise and whatever, and on the enhanced version that we got back from Dolby, all that background noise is completely gone. Someone asked, "Where's all the noise gone?" He went to the same place I put that second slash from the URL here. All right, awesome.
And that's something I will debug after this, which is always the beauty of doing something live with someone new.
Cool. I'm on a live stream. All right, cool. All right, so that worked great. So
Yeah,
what can we do? What can we do from here?
yeah. So this is just kind of one of the examples of all the different things that we have available for you on using our media APIs. I'm sure the issue that we had with the file uploading was also a extra slash that we had somewhere.
Should we
Now,
try that one then?
sure, let's try it.
Yeah, let's go back and try that. So our bearer token should have a long-lived kind of thing now. So we want to go back to the post. Is that right?
So we still want to go. We still have the issue
Oh, we
uploading the
have the
file
upload.
correctly.
Yeah, that's right. Cool. Well, let's go send that over, and then we'll go open the console over here, and let's see what happened in here. So we got a 400 bad request on this one. So no other like output really in the body other than invalid argument. Only one auth mechanism allowed. Only the X Amazon algorithm query parameter, signature query string, or the auth header should be specified. So it looks like maybe too many headers were passed. So
Um,
what we can do in the console here is we can actually go take a look at all the request headers that were sent over, and we see there was an authorization with that bearer token. We see the Postman token, we see the host. That's all we see sent over.
just all very, very interesting that is what is happening right now.
Oh, sorry, I might have been looking at, oh, sorry, binary file invalid or missing file source. Let me reset that file over here. Yep, so it looks like we got the same error, only one auth mechanism. Let me clear my console log and we'll send this over again. So this is the only thing that we've seen here. I might have been looking at the wrong one. Okay, so now when we look at the put, we can come back and we can look at we have the request body, which is the file name. We have the response headers, but we actually don't see the request headers on the way out. So are there any headers actually being set?
And it's very possible that so we recently had an update to our authentication method. So it's very
Okay.
possible that this API has not yet been updated towards that. So
Okay.
that might be one of the issues that we're experiencing right now.
Okay. All right. So it looks like we're not going to play around with some music today, but we were able to see the video. All right. So we got about half an hour left here. What else do you want to tinker with, Griffin?
Yeah, so I really wish that I could kind of figure out what that solution is. One temporary solution, it could upload that directly to like a Dropbox URL, make that public,
Okay.
and try that out itself, or Box or whatever storage solution you use if we really want to try out music mastering. Otherwise, we can data in terms of things like analytics, diagnostics, and all of that.
All right. So let me take a look at Dropbox. So I have a Dropbox account. Can I just upload it into any folder on Dropbox, or does it have to be like in a public folder? What's the best way of setting that
The
up?
file itself just needs to be publicly accessible at the minimum.
So I will upload that and hope that my friend Darren's okay with this being a publicly accessible WAV file for a few moments. All right, so let me figure out how to log into Dropbox and set that visibility on that file. So bear with me for a moment while I go figure that out over on Dropbox. Let's see, so we have folder and let's see, so within Dropbox over here, who can access? So link copied allows viewing. So it looks like maybe this is going to be a publicly accessible, viewable file now.
Cool. Let's try
Maybe.
that out then.
Just to be sure. Gosh, I haven't used Dropbox in a really long time. We'll try. So when you click on copy link, the link is copied and allows viewing. So we'll try it. What's the worst that could happen here? Okay, so where are we
So we
using
want to
the
go back
same input
into
output?
our environment again and
Okay,
change the URL.
all right. And that's going to be our input file link. So I'm just going to paste that in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then so under music mastering, do I do the start mastering?
Yeah, so this is also has a bunch of different things that you are able to change as well. You can see that we have like master preset put in there, which I don't recall if I made a set variable value for it. Yes, I did. So we should be able to, so it's within the music mastering local environment that we have.
Oh, within the collection?
Yep.
Okay. So if we come
So
back up to
we're
the
able
collection variables, we look at the master preset. It's just set to a value of A.
Yes, so we have values A, B, C, D, E, F, I believe. It goes up to a few different. Once again, on the documentation page that is linked is going to give you an idea of what all those different presets mean. Essentially, what it does is it kind of optimizes based on what the actual genre of the music is.
Okay. So let's go take a look at that. So we have the body parameters. So what would I be looking for in the documentation here for that master preset?
Yes, so if you go over to scroll down within outputs, you'll see that master object right there.
Okay, master object.
You can open that up and you'll be able to see right underneath
Oh, interesting.
the dynamic EQ, we should open that and it'll say preset.
Yep. So all the letters of the alphabet and then all kinds of things that it's going to do for that big bass, sub bass presence, suitable for hip hop and trap music, which my friend D Black is definitely into. So I'm going to go ahead and change that preset to the letter E. So we get a nice big bass out of this. I forget who the music artist is, but it's all about that bass, right?
I believe that's Megan Trainor.
Yes, thank you. Couldn't remember the name offhand. My kids would have known that, I'm sure. All right, so I'm just going to close off some of these other tabs here. Okay, so we've got that set now. So for the start master, we've got that master preset set to the value of E, and it looks like loudness. So it's going to set our decibels here. And Griffin, can you explain why decibels are negative values? Do you happen to know why?
That's a great question that I don't want to make a fool out of myself.
No, no worries. Me
Why
either. That's why I was asking you.
for everyone. We do have a very good team of audio engineers who have
Okay.
developed this, where we've been able to throw a lot of different example songs into this API, where we've been able to test out all these different things, kind of figure out, and that's how we've been able to generate all these different presets. These
Okay.
things that you see that say true and have these set intensity levels, dark levels, are the defaults that we expect people to want to use. So target level, the reason why it's negative over here is that this is measured in loudness units. It's relevant to the full scale. So we actually want this to be a little bit quieter than the full scale right now. We don't want the full thing going on right now.
Gotcha. Okay.
You're able to change these to whatever decision that you want. Once again, that docs page is going to tell you all the different information. And as complicated you want to get into it is how you can kind of go forward through all these different things. It is an API. We give you the power to choose what you want to do
Yeah.
in anything you want to do about it.
Yep. And it looks like we had a comment as well that there is an export code icon. that you can also see what the final request is going to look like here on the documentation as well. So as you come in and set this on your documentation, it looks like it's going to export that Perl URL. And the nice thing about this is you can actually copy and paste this into Postman, and it'll turn it into a Postman request for you as well.
Yeah,
Cool.
no,
All right.
we're all about trying to make sure that we have all the proper ways to make your experience as easy as possible to start using our APIs, which again is another
Awesome.
reason why we love Postman.
Now, someone also asked, can we get a recording of the session? So the session will be up on YouTube later on, and you'll be able to come back. So this person was asking on LinkedIn. You'll be able to watch this on LinkedIn as well for a period of time, but we will be putting the video up on YouTube as well. Cool. Well, let's shall we go send this over and see what we get?
Yeah, let's see if this works.
All right, we got a 200 status, so we got a job ID on this one.
I love
So we'll go
seeing
over.
the job ID. It makes me so much happier.
All right,
Yeah,
so it says
music
it's
mastering
running. Just gonna send
takes a
this
little bit
over.
longer than the other
Okay.
APIs because it's a little bit more complicated of an API algorithm.
Okay.
Or enhance, it's a little bit more clear what you want to remove. With music mastering, it's a little bit more subjective. So the algorithm's a little bit more complicated. It takes a little bit more time. And depending on how long, once again, this file is, it will scale logarithmically, though logarithmically still will take longer the longer the file is.
So the file's quite small, but so let's talk really briefly. Like, what is the music mastering API for? Like, who's the target audience for this music mastering API?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking that. So the music mastering API is not meant to replace an actual in-person in-house studio for professional artists who are fine-tuning every single parameter.
Mhm,
That's something that you're still going to want to go to those people for. Dolby is a huge supporter of mastering studios, but we do want to provide options for people who don't necessarily have the budget or the scale to go to those
mhm,
because they're very, very expensive to be able to go and master something directly in a studio. So our API is meant to provide an option for smaller scale indie producers to still be able to get content mastered without having to learn how to do it themselves and without having to pay somebody else to do it for them. We actually use our API directly within customers like SoundCloud, for customers like United Masters. If you don't even want to code at all and still get these directly mastered, we
mhm.
provide our API as a solution for people like that.
That's very cool. So Rahib mentioned on LinkedIn is for wannabe rock stars with home studios like himself. So yeah, it
Exactly.
could be very much along those lines. So it's interesting because like engineering time is expensive. I've been in music studios. I've actually hung out with my friend Darren in music studios while he's working on these hip hop beats and so on. It's expensive. I've also done recording myself on piano and vocals and I've got a few recordings and so on from like way back in the day when I went through my music spell in high school and college years and after college years and so on. It's expensive, and so having an API that you can hit to do this music mastering algorithmically is really interesting. So having all of those presets is a really kind of intriguing idea around like what's possible, like what the potential is as far as like you still have to have some idea of like, do you want to make it bass heavy? Do you want to enhance this, enhance that? You still have to have some knowledge of what you want to do with that mastering, but then the Dolby API takes care of all of that for you.
Yeah, and like we also have the start mastering preview section too for longer files as well, which is going to enable you to kind of see what the different presets are going to sound like at a much smaller scale. To be
Okay.
transparent, this is one of our more expensive APIs, so this is not one that you're going to be able to, for free, master every single track you have out there forever. That is
Okay.
not the design of this API, but we do want to make sure you have um, ooh, input file does not exist or access is
So I
denied.
got 5% in. So you are right. This does take a while. It got 5% into the progress and then started saying that the input file doesn't exist. So I'm wondering if setting that link to Dropbox, if Dropbox only made it publicly available for a short period of time to where like Dolby was trying to read it instead of like copying the file to their server and processing it, if it was trying to stream it off of Dropbox and it was like no longer available or something like that. Any ideas
Um,
what's happening there?
so let's go back to Dropbox and see if we can kind of figure out what's going on with the link that they shared with us, because this has been something that has been successful in the past, though I do know is has something that sometimes the file that they share isn't actually the correct file, where they
Okay.
give you a link that goes like download, but you actually want the direct.mp4 link that they're having over there.
Okay.
So if we copy
So
that,
I'm gonna try it. Yeah, I'm gonna try a slightly different link here to see whether
if you
so it says
paste that
anyone with this link can view it.
in the URL, does it end in an MP4 or does it redirect to kind of a Dropbox download?
It looks like it's Dropbox and it actually goes to .wave.
So let's delete that question mark DL equals 0 and see what that actually shows us. If it downloads a file directly to your computer, that's what we want.
Oh no,
Yeah,
it
okay.
actually goes to a Dropbox. Okay.
So that's the issue that we have over here. So if we go over to
Okay.
that download button over here and we right click that, does that provide a URL that we can directly copy? Because that's what we want. We want the download direct file, or maybe
Doesn't
the
look
save
like it.
as.
Um, well, we got the Chrome Inspect tool. Let's see what that does. Nope. It looks like it's just finding a download.
I know that's something
Doesn't
that we
look
can.
like it's actually yeah, it doesn't look like it's actually giving us like the raw file itself.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, I know that's something that they offer via their API because I've played with it that way. Though the direct one, of course, they're being frustrating in terms of being able to temporarily upload that somewhere. Um, again, we're always doing this live. um, it's interesting too because they end the file with .wave, but it still goes to Dropbox. That's so frustrating.
Yeah.
That they do it that way.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they gave you like access to just the raw like file.
Yeah, I just want the raw file that Dropbox is hosting the same way that the link that we had with the tunnel, it wasn't showing you anything from AWS. It was just literally giving you the video screen.
It's also interesting is they have a save as where they'll like transcode it on the fly.
Yeah, very, very interesting that we have over there.
What were some of the other options for uploading?
Yeah, so
Was it literally like any publicly accessible URL?
yeah, any publicly accessible URL should work as long as it has just the actual video file directly as the
I'm
URL
gonna
that it's
I,
being.
okay, I'm gonna try and put it up on my Google Drive real quick.
Yeah, I know Google Drive sometimes has issues because they do the same thing a lot of the time as Dropbox does, where they kind of go, you need to go through this Google page to do it, which sometimes is not as helpful as you want it to be.
So we'll give it a shot. At this point, we don't have much to lose.
No.
All right, let's see. All right, so let me make that shareable. And anyone with the link, copy, done. And just to verify, now that link is actually looks
I
like it's
found
actually giving.
out what the trick is with Dropbox.
Oh, okay.
So, if you, I just, thank you, Google, our saviors. I just DM'd you the actual link, but if you replace the www.dropbox.com with dl.dropboxusercontent.com,
Oh,
it
sweet.
should
Okay.
provide the direct download URL.
Okay, well, let's go do that in our environment then. So we're going to go over here and we're going to modify the input file link. So I'm going to take that DL0 off the end as well. and we're gonna change Dropbox.com to be dl.dropboxusercontent.com. Save that. Okay, so we'll send that over.
So we're gonna have to do the
Oh wait,
post, actually.
yeah. All right, so send that over. All right, so we got a new job ID, and we'll go over to our get, and this is basically, yeah.
So let's hope that this
So
one
we can hope.
works properly.
Yeah. So someone was asking, like, do a file save as from Dropbox. Well, file save as is just going to save another copy onto my local system. It doesn't actually give us the URL at that point. So, um, cool. All right. So let's. So while we're waiting on that, I'll just have this kind of pinging in the background, and seeing where this is going. It's at 3%. So we'll see what this is
Yeah,
going to
I
have.
see a couple of
We
questions coming in too.
Yeah. So let's go back over to this one. So someone was asking, is it only in the audio or in video? So earlier in the stream, we actually showed how you can, do audio processing on a video and resave that video. But what other kind of video APIs do you have as well?
Yes. So directly on the media side, the big one is our transcoding API, where transcoding allows you to change the format of whatever video or audio file that you might have. So, like the obvious ones are you can change a video file to an audio file, but you can also
Hmm.
do things. We actually just had a new release yesterday where you are able to, for example, overlay text directly onto a video. You can
Oh, interesting.
splice videos together all into one file using our API like that. And that's all only using the media API. Dolby is also in the video space with our two other main ones with Dolby.io,
Okay.
where we have our communications, which is about live conferencing, where you are able to do a live video and audio chat with other people, similar like what we're doing right now via the stream.
Okay. Interesting.
But kind of more in a kind of a Zoom call or Google Hangout space in that direction, but that's all using Dolby Voice to improve the audio quality of that. And then we also have our streaming API, which I also mentioned at the very beginning, where we're able
Right.
to do sub 500 millisecond latency streaming around the world in the video space. Dolby Corporate as a whole is in the video space. Absolutely, with Dolby Vision, which is our HDR solution. But once again, like Dolby Atmos, that is separate from the Dolby.io branch with our developer facing APIs.
Awesome. Next question, and I am at 100% progress on that, so we'll get to that after this question. Do you see a future where these mastering and noise canceling APIs could be used for real time, like remote live performances?
Absolutely. So, streaming API that I just mentioned is one that we actually have been seeing a lot of success in with live streaming because people want to watch a concert in real time. People don't want to be late to the whole concert party. They want to be able to experience it the same. And
Mhm.
because we have acquired this company, Melicast, and we're starting to integrate them directly into our feed, we are absolutely going to go through the rabbit hole of seeing how we can implement Dolby's expertise in audio into these live streams so that they can
Very
be
cool.
as amazing of an experience as possible.
The other one that you mentioned where you can like transcode video and overlay text and stuff like that, that would be really interesting from like a live stream point of view as well. Like I do a lot of live streaming on the side where I try to do like intros and outros and having like the hey like and subscribe and have all that kind of overlay on the video as it's like saving and processing and being able to do all of that programmatically would be fantastic. And now there's an API for that, so that's great. Cool.
Yeah.
Let's go back over to Postman over here. So it looks like everything finished, and we can also see the initial level and the final level of the audio.
Yeah. So once again, those are rules that we were able to change, but now we
Mhm.
should be able to download it once again, doing the start media
That's going to
download.
be that'll be the media download link.
Hmm.
Okay, so we'll send that over, and looks like we have our little 1 minute audio sample. So should we listen to the before and after?
Sounds like a plan to me.
All right. So this is my friend D Black from Las Vegas. I'm just going to go ahead and mute our audio again so it doesn't echo. And we'll listen to a few seconds of the original, and then we'll listen to some of the post-processing from Dolby. All right, so that was the original. Let's listen to the post-processing version here. So I definitely hear more bass and more low end. Um, if you don't have like really high quality speakers, it may not pick up by the time it's like playing through my audio and streaming and like what you're hearing on your end. But I definitely hear it on my side. I'm not
Yeah,
like
no, I
a
want to give a
huge
lot of
audiophile
credit.
myself, but yeah.
Sorry.
So I definitely got more out of it. Um, someone said in chat, it's definitely not as easy as the noise canceling demonstration to see the difference, which is true. Yeah.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I do also. Sorry, I'm getting the echo again. We should probably
Oh,
mute that
there we
feed
go.
again really quick.
Hold on. All fixed.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I do want to give a lot of credit to D Black, very amazing producer, who already did a very good job. But as I mentioned before, this is going to be a lot more of a subjective change. Though this is my first time listening to that being mastered, and that's also only one of the presets that we've being used. I
Right.
am here via a MacBook, and our recent partnership with Apple has actually put Dolby Atmos and all of our speaker technology directly into all of Apple's products. So I was
Oh, wow.
actually like, it was a really cool experience for me. It felt like it was more present in the room. It felt like it was kind of hugging me more with the sound after it was being mastered. And I swear, I'm not just saying that because it's my product. Like, I was like, oh wow, this is actually really cool to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very different experience when you're like in a studio and you've got like high quality speakers or headset or something like that where you can hear those very nuanced differences. Someone asked a really good question. How do the Dolby APIs differentiate between noise and music? Um, yeah, that's a great question considering what you consider to be noise. I've definitely heard my share of music that I would I would definitely classify as noise. Um, Griffin, any input from like the development side of it of how you differentiate between like, if I were like recording a live performance or something and the crowd is cheering, would it be able to filter out the crowd cheering and hear more of the music?
Yeah, so the way that I would kind of phrase it is, it's very, very much similar to a traditional machine learning model, where you're able to feed it a lot of different examples of what you do and what you don't want it to be able to kind of remove, process, fine tune, and all of that. Where our audio engineers have spent a lot of time with a lot of samples being able to move a lot of that stuff and try to kind of differentiate that. So that's kind of the main area, though at the same time, you notice the two APIs that we've shown so far are Enhance and music mastering, where they have two different goals. Enhance is looking more towards human speech, or music mastering is looking more towards music, which music can still involve speech, and speech can still involve music, but it's prioritizing different things directly within them. Yeah, I love that comment you just pulled up. It's a deep question. What's the difference between music and noise? Still figuring this out. Again, it's all subjective. Like, what makes music music? But
Mhm.
we've been trying to kind of decide the different things. So music mastering, the idea isn't that you would master a recording of a concert that you're kind of taping from a microphone in the back of an audience. The idea is that you'd be mastering something that is already just a pure audio file that you've created within the DAW of your choice. Whereas
Right.
Enhance is more looking towards that concert experience or towards the podcasting experience that we had right there. We use Enhance in-house for all the different videos that we create. We use Enhance in-house for all those different things we have out there, whereas music mastering, again, is just what you want to take the music for and then master it.
Right. Someone else was asking, like in the Dolby APIs, what if they've already got like really high quality audio? Like, what would the API be able to sort of, uh, enhance even above and beyond what it already does?
Yeah, so that's kind of the key thing right there. Mastering isn't about kind of trying to make the audio quote unquote higher quality in terms of bit rate. Like the bit rate you have essentially is the bit rate you get. Mastering itself, just fundamentally, is more about kind of tuning levels and more about kind of the minute changes to try to make sure everything is going to be exactly the way you want it to sound within a very high quality of headphones so that it just sounds consistent the entire time. So our mastering API isn't necessarily trying to make it sound quote unquote higher quality, but more trying to kind of make it more traditionally mastered in the way that like you would have a mastered audio being done in normal workflows, where producers are making their audio all directly within a DAW. It's all going to be exactly the way you expect it to be right there. They're using very high quality stuff with it directly within the DAW, but they're not tuning everything
Right.
minutely, finely the way that
Mm,
you want it to be, which is what we're trying to
right.
do.
Yep, gotcha. So I dropped a link both on LinkedIn as well as on Twitch and YouTube for the Dolby Media APIs that we played with today. Definitely encourage you go check those out, make forks of those. Try uploading some samples. There is a free amount of use on that API. Signing up for the API is free. But as Griffin said, like not all the APIs are going to be free for use. Like some of them will incur cost. So be sure that you're paying attention to documentation around like which ones are free and which ones are going to incur some billing and so on.
Which you will
Um,
not be billed if you do not put in a credit card. It's not going to magically know what your credit card
yeah,
is, and you do not need a credit
mhm.
card to sign up, to be
Yeah, yeah,
clear.
yeah, yeah. Which is great. Like I love when APIs are set up, especially in our API public network, to where you can literally just pull up a workspace, fork over a collection, and you can just start playing with it. Like going through, start with the authenticate, get that bearer token. It's written into the environment, and now everything else in those collections is just going to use that environment, and it's all ready to go. You just bang, 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 just go through and hit all the different APIs in the right order, and everything's just going to work. I love that you and your team have spent time on the public API to set it up this way to make that barrier of entry as low as possible for people that want to be able to tinker with these APIs and play with them. So kudos to you and your team for putting in the effort on this. I think it makes for a great API experience for people that want to come in and start playing with us.
Thank you. I mean, that's the goal. That's what I'm a developer advocate for. Though we also want to extend our thanks back to Postman because Postman's been a big help in trying to make it more accessible. I've been playing a lot with Postman and just kind of trying to like even the debugging we saw directly within the console is stuff that we were
Mhm.
able to find super quickly that direction. In my own time, well, still for work. I'm actually planning on playing more with Postman in terms of things like Postman flows in the future,
Oh yeah.
where as you saw with our workflows, it was definitely a very linear process
Hmm.
in terms of
For
what you
sure.
put in and what steps you need to do to get it out, which I just think works so well with having a tool like that to be able to help different users and different developers understand what the workflow of what going through a Dolby Media API workflow is going to look like.
Yeah, and to be clear, Griffin and I were like this close to using Flows today, but having the file upload would have been tricky because right now Flows doesn't allow you to do a file upload in the request. We would have to go in and like manually set that one request, and then we would have been able to build out all those blocks for everything else that we needed. But because you've basically set all these requests to write these things into the environment variables, going into Flows and building out these blocks, it would have just worked. Like chaining these things together would have worked. And then it would have been interesting too to see like how could we build the loop of checking is this job finished or not, and extracting like when it hits 100%, exit that loop and move on to the next thing of like now actually figure out how can we play the audio or download the audio at that point, where it would uh, basically go start to finish on all of that. So
Yeah, and another solution we have for that that is maybe a little more complicated, but maybe a little bit more smart, is that we also do provide webhook endpoints for people who don't want to actively check their job status and just want to go to the next step. We do provide you the ability to use webhooks so that that all is automated in the future.
and the nice thing about using webhooks is you can set those up as monitors as well in Postman. So let me grab one more workspace here to drop in. So you can also go check out these example workflow or flow examples as well. I'm going to paste the link in LinkedIn here as well. So flows examples. You can go check out this link as well. You can see in the chat up here. This is a bunch of work that our flows team has put together around just playing around with flows and how all the different blocks can sort of chain together. We did a whole live stream a few weeks ago where we dove into how did we as Postman, how did we build this? Found out there's only 3 people building flows, which blew my mind. It completely surprised me. I'm like, "What? There's only 3 people on the team building up that whole thing." And that team is hiring. So you can definitely check that out on the Postman hiring page. But yeah, the work that they're doing in the visual programming tool there, I think really makes it accessible to people that don't want to write all the JavaScript code and write all that test code where, developers like Griffin and I can go in and we can write that. And now, non-developers can actually go in and just pull those requests, put them into blocks, chain those blocks together and really explore the possibilities of what is the user experience going to look like. So yeah, it would be interesting too. Now that we can also fork flows, one thing Griffin you might want to do is actually put together some example flows and actually put that into your API as well, and people
Yeah,
will be able to fork that flow into their workspace and tinker with that as well.
yeah, that was definitely the goal. With or for me at least when I was trying to build them, we have a bunch of quick starts for using our APIs, and I go, well, a flow seems like a perfect avenue in which I
Mm,
can create quick starts for people to
yeah,
understand how this is all going to work.
awesome. Someone also asked, is Dolby doing any work in metaverse?
Yeah, so the short answer to that is indirectly. So a lot of our APIs are methods in which a lot of people have been involved in the metaverse as customers. So people who want to use our communications API, for example, it doesn't have to just be video in a 2D sense. A lot of people are using communications APIs as the conferencing solution within the metaverse itself, using our high quality audio in our kind of communication flow that way, as well as
Mm,
once again streaming. If you have very low latency, you're able to stream content to people in very very rapid fashion, where you're able to connect a bunch of these different kind of parameters together. We enable people to build directly within Unreal, as well as we are working on Unity itself for kind of the game development section of it. But Dolby itself isn't kind of directly building anything for the metaverse, though a lot of our customers have found that we're a great solution for that.
awesome. That's great. Cool. Well, huge shout out to my friend Darren, who gave us permission to use some of his audio tracks today, and we heard a small sample of one of his tracks. So, big thank you to Darren for that. Griffin, we like to end our streams with community shout outs. If you got anything that you want to promote, anything else that Dolby's got going on, or anything that you just personally want to promote, that you want to share with us.
Yeah, so Dolby is sponsoring the Web Audio Conference, where we just love supporting all the different audio developer communities that we have out there as audio nerds ourselves. Um, we just like supporting people like that. Definitely follow us at dolby.io, basically everywhere, or if there isn't a dot available in usernames, it's just dolby.io. You can find me at Wing of a Griffin, WingOfAGriffin, and just be kind to each other. I guess
Definitely,
I think
definitely
it's
agree.
just it's nice to show love to everyone, be
Yeah,
respectful.
for sure. Awesome. Well, Griffin, really appreciate your time. As far as Postman community shoutouts, we've got a lot of really great APIs. I mean, our public API network is constantly growing. We've recently there was something on our blog recently about being called out as like the best, like the number one API platform, which we certainly appreciate. I think we've got like only a day or two left. If you've seen the emails from Postman about filling out a survey for us, we've only got like a day or so left on that. So we would appreciate as much input on that as possible just to hear about people's use of APIs and how you use APIs makes a big difference for us to shape the Postman product. And so if you've been seeing those emails, please take a few minutes to fill out that survey for us. It would be a giant help. Keep an eye on that Postman Space Camp page. We're going to have some details on there for our August session. And last month we did a live Postman Space Camp in San Francisco, and we're going to be doing more of those live events. So definitely keep a watch on that Postman Space Camp page. We're going to have more information on there in the future. Aside from that, Griffin, thanks again for your time today. It was fun playing around with these APIs and seeing what these APIs are capable of doing. Live debugging is always a great fun when we're dealing with this kind of stuff. So appreciate everyone's patience while we work through that. And yeah, we'll catch you on the stream next week. This recording, as we mentioned, will be up on LinkedIn for a period of time, but it'll be over on our YouTube channel as well. And we'll get all the show notes and stuff in there for that.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really enjoyed it.
All right. All right, everyone. We'll catch you next week. Thanks for joining Postman today. And we'll see you on our next live stream. Have a great day.